Hi, welcome to my first shield video. So what do we got here? Some sort of bullpuppy, shotgunny sort of thing. Found this packed in with it. Let's see what we got here. Let's see, this is the VRBP-100A from RIA. Let's go ahead and skip ahead here. Let's see, this is the best gun ever made. Please buy several of them. Be strong, be of good courage. I think they sent me the wrong script here. I'm gonna have to do this freehand. All right, but seriously though, this is a T&E gun provided by Rock Island Armory in collaboration with the Commando blog. Now, I'm 100% not getting paid to do this, unlike some people. Oh no. Though the gun has been provided free of charge, except for the transfer fee. That's on me. So I do have to give a special thanks to both parties involved. I do appreciate it. Now, naturally and unfortunately, I don't get to keep it. I only get to play around with it for a little bit. And hey, listen, just get to the shooting. I get it, I want to go shoot this thing too. But it is a T&E gun, so there's a couple things we need to go over first. So first, as a T&E gun, this is a sample size of 1, which means that if you're considering getting one of these, definitely check out other reviews, other information, anything you can really to try and bulk that up. Now secondly, again, this is a T&E gun, which means it's not off the shelf. Now that shouldn't matter, not to say that this one in particular has been touched up or anything, but it is something to keep in mind. So indeed, as mentioned, this is the VRBP-100A. Listen, guys, you really gotta work on your naming. I'm really not asking for much, just come up with something like the Black Thunder or the Viking 12 or just anything. I mean, the VRBP-100A, that just sounds like something you do not want to get a tattoo of, if you know what I mean. So with that out of the way, what do we got here? A bullpup. Man, do I just love the bullpups. P90, the RFB, the AUG, the FS2000, and yes, even the Tavor. So for quite some time I've been actually low-key trying to collect all of them, or at least the ones that are commercially available anyway. And since this is a 12 gauge, a shotgun bullpup, it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up against the other bullpup shotguns out there. So right off the bat, I'll tell you what I hate about it the most. It isn't reversible for disgusting mutant freaks like myself who happen to shoot left-handed. But don't all bullpups have that problem, you might ask? Actually, no. As it turns out, nearly every single bullpup out there is either reversible or ambidextrous. Even this piddly little G22 can be swapped to left-handed configuration. In fact, just about the only bullpup that comes to mind that isn't reversible is the good old M17S, and no one even really knows they exist. So let's go over the features here real quick, starting at the front. So if you look here at the muzzle, you'll see it is, in fact, threaded for chokes. Now, from the factory, these come with a modified choke installed, but they do, in fact, have both a full and cylinder choke included with the gun, which is nice. That is very, very nice, and you've essentially got all your bases covered right out of the box. That's very rare to see, especially in such a quote-unquote tactical shotgun such as this. So little things like that are definitely appreciated. Now moving further back, you've got your iron sights here, just kind of your bog standard AR-15 style sights. I think these might actually be proprietary to this gun, but they're similar enough to where honestly you won't notice any difference whatsoever. Now they are both adjustable for windage back here and elevation up here, as well as you have a dual peep sight in the back. The clicks are very, very positive, so there's absolutely no mistaking where you're at there, especially this rear one. That is very positive feedback on that. Not that you really need to do much adjusting on this. These are more or less precision sights, and for a shotgun, that's, you know, really not the forte, but nevertheless, it is appreciated. So up here at the right side, you have an offset Picatinny rail for whatever you want to throw up there, light, laser, beer koozie, whatever you feel like. But it's worth noting that on the opposite side, there is no Picatinny rail, obviously because the charging handle is right here. But having said that, with most guns, you'll see an option to slap it onto either side. This one, no such luck. You've got rail on this side and absolutely no options to put anything on this side. So that is worth noting. And of course, you've got your charging handle, which is Again, not reversible at all. There's no slots for that on the opposite side. There could be, but they didn't design it that way. There's absolutely nothing stopping it from being on either side, as all it does is essentially it interfaces on the action here, which has more than enough space on both sides. But, you know, it's left side only, so if you're left-handed like me, I'm afraid you're just out of luck on that one. So further back still, you've got quick detach sling points right here, and also right here. But again, left side only. You flip it around, oh, look at that. There's nothing available. Now, if you wanted to put a sling on this side, you've got your Picatinny rail, of course, and you've got your top rail as well. As far as the rear goes, there's really nothing available there unless you want to run a fabric sling point on the back. So your safety here is actually ambidextrous. You've got fire and safe. Although one little caveat I don't really like about it, you'll see the dots here, your fire and your safe, they're both kind of up. Now if you look real close, you can see that there's a teeny tiny little nub right there that designates which one that's pointing to, but that's not really immediately obvious, and definitely at a distance you wouldn't be able to tell. So if you ask me, I think the safe indication should be a little further down to line up more so with the actual safety itself, and the fire should be just a straight vertical. But you know, just a teeny tiny little nitpick. Not really a huge fan, but it's pretty inconsequential. Now on the opposite side, you've got the other side of the safety. You'll notice it's a little bit shorter, and these are just bolted in there with little Allen screws, so you can swap the sides if you like, but it's set up again for right-handed use, so you've got the smaller one on the other side. So further back, you've got the ejection port here, which is kind of funky. Instead of opening downwards like you would very often see in pretty much any other gun ever, this one pops upwards. Why? I don't know. It's kind of neat though. And once again, you'll probably start noticing a trend here. There is absolutely no ejection port on the other side. So if you're, again, a left-handed shooter like myself, you get your face nice and tight up in there, you very potentially might have a bad day. So further back, we've got a magazine release on the right-hand side. And then on the left side, you also have a magazine release right there, which is appreciated. Now, similar to what you'd see on an AR-15, you've got a little paddle release for your bolt hold open, which curiously is lacking the little nub that's usually on the bottom, but otherwise it's just a standard ping pong paddle release. So at the very rear, you've got an adjustable cheek riser, which has a give of about an inch or so. Why you would ever need it that high, I will never know, but it is an option. Now, if you've been paying attention so far, you can probably guess what I'm about to tell you. That's only on the left side. So, for left-handed shooters, once again, you're out of luck. So then, at the actual buttstock of the gun, it's kind of interesting. Instead of going straight in line like you'll typically see, it does dip just a little bit. And I think for a shotgun, that's actually kind of preferable. For your 12 gauges and whatnot, they tend to be rather stout on the recoil, and you want it to be nice and in the pocket rather than on a collarbone or anything else unpleasant that it might snuff into. So having it droop down like that, just a half an inch or so, can really help you get a better purchase on it without being too uncomfortable. I dig it. So the strange thing that I noticed about this, since this is a gas-operated shotgun, and this section here is essentially where the old buttstock would have been on the conventional layout of the gun, this is all hollow and pretty deep. So here's what I figured out. If you take a whole bunch of shot shells, got 1, 2, 3, and 4, so you can close that up. There you go. Snap right in place, and just like that, you've got 4 shot shells stowed away for a rainy day. Why you would ever need that? I have absolutely no idea, but you can absolutely do it. And with 4 of them in there, they don't rattle around, they're nice and compressed, and make no noise whatsoever. So, neat. You've got a tremendous amount of storage in the rear for shot shells, or maybe some paperwork, or whatever you want, really, whatever will fit. But for me, 4-shot shells, yeah, I'll take that. Now you might be wondering what this little lever right here is and what it does. Well, that's for the takedown, not for necessarily the gun itself, but just the fore end here. So to use that, we're gonna go ahead and lock the bolt to the rear, just like that. It'll allow us to flip the lever down, and then you'll need to take off the end cap here at the very end, which they provide a tool for. So there are essentially 2 ways to do it. You can use the wrench here, just kind of slap it in there, and of course it does have a cutout for a quarter or a nickel or basically anything you can stuff in there. So interestingly enough, this little tool here can actually install or remove your choke tubes as well. It's very well thought out. That is, again, appreciated. And you also do have a specialized tool for the chokes as well, so you have a little bit of redundancy there, which is good. But let's go ahead and get this off here. Once you loosen it up, it will come out rather easily. Oh, and do be careful with this little ring right here. It's the only thing that holds the charging handle in place, which is under spring tension, so if you let it go, it can and will knock that free, and that'll just be flying off into space. And then naturally your charging handle will just slide right out. Now I know what some of you might be thinking, man, this thing kind of looks like a bigger, funkier Tavor, right? Yeah, I totally get that. So yes, this thing does absolutely draw a little bit of inspiration from the Tavor in its looks, until you take off its makeup. All of a sudden, they're not quite so similar anymore. So yes, underneath it all, this is essentially what you get, and you will see something very, very familiar if you've seen too many semi-automatic shotguns in the past before. So as you might imagine, you've got some gas ports right here into the barrel, which lead down into a gas chamber, which in turn drives this piston here rearward. Oh, and they do also give you a separate piston. This is the heavy piston, as opposed to the light piston that comes installed in the gun. Now the difference is, for the light piston, that's for pretty much all of your 2 3/4 inch shells. These are for your magnum loads, your 3-inchers. So will you ever need this? Probably not, unless you really want to do some sport shooting with your bullpup shotgun that is really not suited to it, but it's an option. Which acts as a short stroke piston, smacking the action arms here, which connect to the bolt itself, driving everything rearward, just like that. And again, if you've seen any gas-operated semi-automatic shotguns, this will look very, very, very familiar. In fact, this is almost identical to the SAS-12, so give that a bit of thought. So indeed, this is the ugly truth behind this shotgun. It isn't actually a bullpup. So what I mean by that is, this is technically a bullpup. You've got Byzance in the front, Party in the back, but it wasn't designed that way. This is, in actuality, a retrofit of one of their other shotguns, essentially just slapped into a bullpup kit, similar to what you might see with a Kushnapup or any of the other kits available for other conventional firearms. So from my personal point of view, I don't really consider any retrofit, any pre-established firearm configured into a bullpup as an actual bullpup. If you ask me, it has to be built from the ground up as one, and this is not. And since it's not, that gives it a couple of problems. Let me explain. So most notably with a lot of retrofits, a lot of conversion kits, the biggest problem that you'll have is the trigger, and you'll see exactly what I mean right here. So you've got your trigger right here, but that's not actually the fire control group. That's all back here. What this is a linkage between the front of the gun and the action. Now that's only connected through this teeny tiny little trigger bar. So with a lot of conventional bullpups, what you'll see is a very, very thick, often squared or rectangular transfer bar here, instead of what you see on the conversion kits and the retrofits such as this. This is just a very, very thin, round wire, only on one side. And on a lot of other bullpups, they'll have something running on this side as well as the other side to give it a lot more strength, a lot less flex in that transfer bar, which can really contribute to mushy triggers and just stiff pulls and whatnot. This one, it only has it on the one side. There's more than enough space to put it on the other side, but, well, they just didn't. And that does have consequences. So you can see, as I very, very gently finagle the trigger here, you can see it start to flex, start to bend, start to bow a little bit. Let's measure this trigger, see how it feels. So funny enough, my wheeler scale that I typically use maxed this out at about 10 pounds or so. Doesn't even come close to getting this trigger to break. So I've got a different scale here. Not necessarily a trigger scale, but let's see what it says. All right, we're on fire. Let's see what it does. We are up to 18 pounds already. 18, 19, 20. Ooh, about 23. About 23 pounds on that trigger. Now, since we're not using an actual trigger scale, let's give it the benefit of the doubt there. Take off maybe 5, even 8 pounds. Give it the benefit of the doubt there severely. That still leaves you with a 15+ pound trigger, which is atrocious. Now, to be fair, I will say when you're actually firing the thing, it's a shotgun, you don't really notice it too much how bad that trigger is. And it's very, very workable, but still, that is very, very unpleasant, and it has absolutely no right being that bad. All right, so let's talk about magazines. So I actually really, really like these magazines. They seem very well designed. It's just, you know, your basic stamped sheet metal, but there's something real neat about them. The follower is actually curved. It's contoured to meet the dimensions of your actual shell itself, and see, I love this in backwards, HK style. It just rides along a little groove, just like that. Contrast that to, say, this factory Sega mag, and it's just a flat follower. Not that that doesn't work, and not that this is necessarily any better, but it seems to be a nice little touch, you know, well thought out. So also worth noting with the magazine, since the 12 gauge round is just such a naturally round shape, it really helps with insertion. Don't take that out of context. Now what I mean when I say that is this gun has a flared magwell, which makes insertion of the magazines very, very easy, very idiot-proof. Now you combine that with the natural shape, the natural dimensions of the 12 gauge sitting on top of the magazine, and it's just super easy. Just really, really stupid easy. Like, take a look. I'm gonna hit it about halfway. Now, if this were any other gun, it wouldn't go in, but just straight in. Like, I'm not even looking right now. I'm gonna look over here. Boom, easy as that. So regarding magazines, out of the box, you're gonna get 2 5-rounders, which is, you know, pretty bog standard for your semi-auto shotguns. But likewise, you are gonna have other magazines available. This big honker is a 10-rounder, which is about the sweet spot for your 12 gauge. It's similar to a 30-rounder for your AR or AK. It's just about the right balance between your size, your weight, your bulk, and your capacity. It's a nice trade-off and very evenly balanced, all things considered. And then you've got this. So this big honking thing appears to be just 2 10-rounders bolted together with some witness windows right in there. This holds 19 rounds. It's 19 plus 1 for a grand total of 20 rounds, and it is ridiculous. What does it look like in the gun? Well, that's about what you get. Completely ridiculous. But does it work? Let's find out. So one thing about the trigger I forgot to mention earlier, the reset is quite possibly the worst trigger reset I have ever felt, even worse than some of the really garbage AK builds that would give you just the most horrendous trigger slap. Let me show you what I mean here. So, click. We're gonna reset. Trigger. It just shocks around a tremendous amount. Take a closer look here. Reset. It really smacks. One more time. Trigger reset. It smacks you real good. Just really has a tremendous amount of slap to it, and you know, with the trigger already as heavy as it is, that's really some serious points against it. So full disclosure here, Rock Island did actually send me some high quality ammunition. This is Fiocchi high brass birdshot, high velocity. So something you would expect to run pretty well in a semi-automatic shotgun. So why don't we go ahead and give it a try and see how reliable it is. Well, hey, look at that. It looks pretty reliable to me. Let's go ahead and move on here. Obviously, I'm just kidding. I don't want to come out ahead one single bit for this review. So, like I said, we got 100 rounds of ammo. Let's burn it up. That is all 100 rounds out of this thing without a single stoppage. A few little quirks here and there, like the cheek riser, it tends to keep wanting to pop up under recoil. But other than that, you're looking at 100% with the premium ammunition. As sore as my shoulder is, let's try something else here. So this is your garden variety garbage, Walmart trash. It's Federal 7.5 shot, low brass, bird shot. Now most semi-automatic shotguns will choke on this, unless they've been tuned quite a bit to handle it. So let's see how this stuff does. This is the 3 dram equivalent, which for most shotguns, that is the very, very, very bottom threshold of what's reliable in a gas operated system anyhow. Now in the interest of both time and the soreness of my shoulder, I'm not going to do all 100 rounds of that bulk pack, but I am going to do both 5-round magazines. This actually doesn't hold 10 rounds. This only holds 9 rounds, I'm noticing, unless I'm doing something horrendously wrong, but 9 rounds in this one, and then the 19 rounder as well. Oh, it's so sore. All right, here we go. We got one malfunction. Didn't quite make it out of the pipe. All right, unfortunate, but let's see how the rest of it does here. Nope, same issue. Yeah, these aren't quite kicking them out all the way. That's a little stovepipe there. Come here, you. All right, I'm gonna load up the 9-rounder and see what happens with that one after this. Because, you know, this is the only mag that's giving me problems. I don't imagine why that would have any effect, but let's see here in a second. Okay, the rest of those ran just fine. All right, so we got 10 rounds loaded up. Pop one in the chamber here. In you go, little guy. And here we go. Try and shoot them as fast as we can here. Nope, just barely caught it in there. Didn't quite make it out. Okay, so with, again, the absolute bottom of the barrel, bargain bin, budget ammunition, not bad. You know, you had a couple hiccups here and there, but you know, maybe with a little bit more of a break-in, a little bit more smoothing out of the internals, could handle those without any issues whatsoever. But handled them far better than most shotguns out there. And plus the actual ammunition you're supposed to use, well, that worked just fine. Now that my left arm is just about dead from being beaten around like that, stuck final thoughts here. I'm a little conflicted on this one. We've got a whole bunch of pros and we got a whole lot of cons. So let's go over all them real quick. So your pros, number 1, the aesthetics of this thing. This is just a flat out sexy looking gun. Sleek lines, nice and curved contours, very well put together. Of course, until you take its makeup off, but looks very, very nice, very space age, very modern, very sleek, very sexy. I really, really like it. That is my one favorite thing about this. And if I was going to keep this, that would be the number 1 reason why. So 2, as you just saw, incredibly reliable. Little few hiccups, trouble getting the shells out to the bulk, low brass, garbage ammo. But that aside, really stellar, phenomenal reliability so far. So moving on, this is a bullpup format, meaning you have a full-length shotgun in a very, very, very compact package. A lot of people like that. I like that. I don't really like it in this one, but we'll get to that in a moment. So very, very compact, very handy. You can use this with one hand, absolutely no problem. Just stellar in terms of the overall length of it, as you might expect. Another tremendous positive, out of the box, with this gun, you get basically everything you could ever need for it, apart from a few extra magazines. So one of the pros, the ergonomics of this are pretty great. I mean, you just saw me dump about 150 rounds of ammunition. The handguard here, it's a little warm, but still very, very comfortable. You touch the barrel by accident, well, that's another story, but you'll get that with pretty much anything. So ergonomics are very, very nice. The grip is nice and comfortable. You've got a flared mag well, which makes inserting magazines super duper easy. Now you've got an adjustable buttstock here, which is a little unheard of with bullpups. They're usually just one size, and if you don't like it, too bad. But it is nice. You've got almost about 1.5 inches of play to work around with. So out of the box, it comes with 2 5-round magazines, which is nice. It would be nicer if it came with the 9-round magazine as well, or instead of those 2, but you know, it comes with 2 magazines, so that's pretty nice. Your magazine availability is very, very nice as well. And yes, it does come with this boomerang here that holds 19 rounds. That's 20 rounds on tap without having a big, awkward drum magazine to get in your way here. Now, obviously, it is a little unwieldy, but it does stay out of your way, and it's not awfully balanced either. So that is nice. It comes with 3, count them, 3 chokes for pretty much anything you could ever want. You've got a cylinder, you've got a modified, and you've got a full choke as well, which is practically unheard of, especially for your quote-unquote tactical shotguns like this one. And then obviously it also comes with a full sighting system, flip-up iron sights, front and rear backup iron sights. Now you may want to throw an optic on here, a red dot or something, but you don't need to because it comes with perfectly serviceable sights as well. Out of the box, this thing comes fully stacked. And not only that, if you choose to shoot magnum loads for whatever reason, your 3-inch big boy shells, comes with a replaceable piston just for that. Now, I don't know why you would ever want to, but the option is available, and that's what this thing does. It just screams options. But cons though, what does this thing have against it? Well, I've got a lot to talk about there too. So first and foremost, especially for disgusting mutants like me, this is not for lefties, not whatsoever. It could have been, absolutely could have been, but it wasn't. I guess they just didn't feel like catering to the minority that we are, which is understandable. But all things considered, not really ambidextrous, not really lefty friendly. You've got an ambidextrous safety, you've got an ambidextrous magazine release, but you don't want to shoot this from the off shoulder. Now, doing so, and at least wanting to use the sights at the same time, is rather painful. And all the controls, well, they just don't really work for a left-handed person. So I know for a lot of you that won't matter, so toss that up as you will, but there are other cons as well, aren't there? So, the trigger. This is, apart from the left-handedness, the major complaint that a lot of people are going to have issue with. The trigger is incredibly mushy, incredibly heavy, just really not a good time. Now, you don't really notice it if you're shooting fast, if you're shooting for anything other than precision. So you're looking at a 20+ pound trigger, give or take, which is really mushy, really spongy, and the reset on it is just the worst that I've seen in quite some time. And to be fair, I am a bit of a trigger snob. I'm used to your 5-7 max pound triggers, but this just does not do it for me. So another major con, and this may or may not matter to you, but not a bullpup. Like, again, it is, technically speaking, but this is just a retrofit. This is a glorified aftermarket kit for an already existing shotgun that they just kind of crammed inside of it. Now, it looks very nice, but at the end of the day, this was not built from the ground up as a bullpup, so you will see a couple of issues there inherent to doing that, such as the trigger. Now, another point that could be either a pro or a con, depending on your perspective, is the price of it. Now, this is not a super cheap shotgun. It's not expensive, but it's certainly not inexpensive, such as, say, some of the Sega clones like the Lynx or other derivatives of that variety that go for $300-400-ish. Now, this has an MSRP of completely irrelevant because MSRP in guns means absolutely nothing, but street price, you're looking at about, from what I'm seeing recently here as of, what is this, May 2019, about... Whoa, hold on there. I just looked them up. They're actually about $469 at the moment. and I'm sure that'll fluctuate quite a bit in the coming months and years. Maybe that's cheap to you, maybe that's expensive to you. So make up your mind as far as that goes. Also, sometimes it fails to lock open in the last round, but you know, whatever. So with all that being said, would I recommend the VRBP-100A? If you feel like it. It's kind of a toss-up for me. Honestly, if you like the look and you're right-handed, yeah, this is a really cool looking shotgun, super reliable from what I'm seeing, and yeah, if this tickles your pickle, go for it. But having said that, the ultimate litmus test of any review is, am I personally going to pick one up? No, absolutely not. And I think you'll know exactly why if you've been paying attention thus far. This is not a left-handed friendly gun, and I am severely left-handed, cripplingly so. So unfortunately, it is a debilitating disease that I was born with and I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And something like this, it's just not handicap accessible, I'm afraid. And also, this is Turkish, so if you have problems with that, and trust me, I get it, this isn't for you. But hey, if you don't have all the hang-ups that I do, well, you go ahead and pick one up for yourself. You get it? Casting couch?